For me, grit actually has become an acronym that stands for gratitude, resilience, integrity, and tenacity. So I have grit. And you know how I know that? Somebody told me I did. I would do things in life that people would say, oh, if you want something done, just ask Luthy. She'll get it done. No was not an acceptable answer. Even when my mom was having medical challenge and they said, hey, listen, she may never get well. I'm like, that's not going to happen. We're more concerned about you. I'm like, nope, I'm concerned about my mom. So grit was, and I think part of it comes from my family mantra. My grandmother and father used to say, if you don't ask, you don't get. So if you want to know how that transforms into being an advisor and creating a book of business and helping others, you have to go out and find clients, right? You have to have grit to do that. This business isn't for everybody. It's not easy, but it is very rewarding.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of CBS Spotlight, where we highlight the voices that are shaping the way we live, lead, and plan for the future. And today we're joined by Ms. Kim Luthy, partner and director of wealth planning at Synthesis Wealth. With nearly 4 decades of experience, Kim brings a rare blend of technical expertise, deep empathy, and lived resilience, from guiding clients through life's most complex transitions to helping them rebuild trust in themselves. Her perspective is both grounding and inspiring. So, Kim, welcome to the show. Did I miss anything?
You did not. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Kim, well, welcome to the show. We appreciate you being here, and congratulations on making partner recently. That's exciting.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I mean, you've been a female advisor in the RIA space for 38 years now. Tell me a little bit about kind of what that experience has been like, first and foremost, but also how have you seen the industry evolve for women over that time?
First of all, when you say 38 years, I feel like I should say I started when I was about 8. And I have to tell you,
That's what I was thinking.
yeah, right. Thank you. Honestly, I think it's just flown by. I can't even tell you where the last 38 years has gone. Think about your own personal and professional lives. Decades just go by. And when you say the word decade, it just sounds like I remember when I was much younger, right? Everyone seemed, when I get to this age, I'm like, wow, they are really old, but I think they're just really wise, right? Yeah, I think it's just flown by and evolved rapidly. The industry is obviously ever changing. I have been or was actually the only woman in my firm for many, many years, and that's presented a lot of, and I'll call them opportunities, not even challenges. I think I used to say if it were the softness of my voice that opened up the door, it's what I said when I walked through the door that made all the difference. So I've been a student of the industry, student of, always getting my designations, educating myself. Of course, we have continuing education already, but I've always been a self-starter. And so I've evolved through my own drive and ambition. I never take no as an answer. I get up every day and I try to do my best. I've just seen it evolved. And I believe that it's your attitude that determines your altitude. Right. And so when I got started in the business very young, one of my mentors, I should say, was talking about how the attitude is everything. And it's really just been something that's been a thread across my personal and professional life, having a positive attitude.
Great insight. Thank you. Appreciate that. I've got, you became the matriarch of your family at a very young age. And I guess, can you share with us, what that looked like and how it shaped your sense of responsibility and leadership over the years?
Yes, absolutely. Well, it's being the matriarch of a family isn't something that someone actually ever chooses, or maybe it is. For me, it was something that I was kind of thrust into. My parents got divorced when I was 14 years old, one of 5 children. I have a brother who's 14 months older, a brother who's 14 months younger, and then a sister who's 6 years younger, and a brother who's 8 years younger. So my mom was having some medical challenges. My dad was traveling absentee for periods of time. And so I knew that somebody had to step up and help create this sense of safety. And maybe that's what's driven me to this industry. It's funny, I provide safety for others when I think I was lacking it in my own career or life, I should say. So we rallied together as a family. We helped each other get through I went to all the parent-teacher conferences and the T-ball games and did all that I could do to be that sense of security for my family. So I think it's shaped me in the way that I now go and reflect upon where I am at different ages and stages in my own life and how I bring that to the table for my clients. I want everyone to live the life that they need and deserve, right? And that takes a lot of time
Hmm.
and planning, and life happens whether you like
Yeah.
it or not. And, you have to be prepared for the unexpected as if it's expected. And I am a walking testimonial to that. I can tell you that there isn't an incident or issue that I personally haven't gone through or my clients haven't gone through. And we want to make sure that we're planning for all those different challenges. And like I said, creating opportunities as a result of that.
That's great. And it's interesting you say that too, because, just being that person that had to step in and be the kind of the parent. You mentioned in there that you're always looking out for others first, you know what I mean? And that's kind of, I see that, I guess in my own life and situations I've been in as well. Like it's like you'd rather suffer or not suffer, but I guess just kind of,
Take a back seat.
yeah, take a back seat to make sure that others around you in your life that you care about are taken care of and that they have the stuff that they
Yeah.
need, right? So you work harder for that, and that's it's great. It's inspiring to see and
Thank
hear
you.
from you that's kind of how shaped your
It
your
fills
career
my
as well.
bucket. I don't know why. I don't know if that's a healthy thing or not,
Hmm.
but, I'm a go-giver, and I used to think I was a go-getter, but I realize I'm a go-giver,
Mm.
and there's a difference.
Go
Go-giver,
giver. I
right?
like that. Mm.
And that I see our lives and the opportunities as the glass is half full. I try and surround myself with more, positive people. We know we're the sum of those 5 closest people, so I'm always reevaluating who is it that
Mhm.
I'm in touch with right now, who's in my life, and are they bringing
Right.
value? It's not that you can easily disengage with some people, particularly if they're related to you, but you can decide on how you receive that information and what is this opportunity trying to teach me, and how can I grow from this? What is this, what can I learn, and how can I bring those experiences to others? I mean, living in a little bit of a chaotic type of growing up. I mean, I had jobs from the time I was 14. I would do everything from cutting grass, shoveling driveways, newspaper route. I worked at a pizza place. I worked at ShopRite. I did everything. I mean, I remember going to high school, riding my bike, and during lunch break, running up to the pizza shop, working for an hour on my lunch break to put money, because if we needed oil in the tank or something was happening, or my siblings needed cleats or something needed happening, or my own needs needed to be met, I did whatever I need to do, and I think that type of behavior I've carried on into working with clients. I know that everybody has their own story with money and finances, and why are they acting that way? And so we could figure out what it is that you're looking to accomplish and what the barriers are. How can we help you get there?
Beautiful.
Kim, I know you had kind of a unique college experience. I'm curious, I want to get to what the pivotal moments were in college and kind of how that chapter influenced who you are today and who you've become later in life. But I'm curious, I know there's an interesting story that kind of leads up to college before we even get there. So could you tell us a little bit about that and kind of the road your life took as you got to that
Sure.
experience?
Well, I mentioned earlier, because my parents divorced when I was young, 14, by the time I was 17 and had been helping to raise my younger brothers and sisters, I moved out, and had got my own apartment. Actually, was living with a boyfriend at the time. And I went to college, local community college. So I was working at all these different jobs, paying for the tuition. And then after I completed my associate's degree, I knew I needed to continue on, and I knew it would require me to go away, but I needed to go far enough away that no one was knocking on my door every moment, because I needed to figure out who I was, right? But so I literally got a protractor and did a 2.5 hour radius from my college and said, okay, that's where I'm going to apply. And so I went to school up in Pennsylvania, Lebanon Valley College, and it's a liberal arts school. I went as a business major, And the college experience enabled me to go and figure out who I was, create new circles of friends. In fact, I moved into the dorm and it was a sorority. I had no intention of pledging, right? Because I don't like people telling me what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. It's just not a,
Yeah.
and in fact, there were times when I was like, this is not for me, but my big sister said, hang in there, you got this. But what I realized was I created these friendships. I have what we call our Fab Four. I have four, well, there's three girlfriends, so there's four of us that I have been friends with now for 40 years. And so,
Wow.
I didn't, I didn't talk about it yet, but I have three children myself, and I have a son who is actually my youngest, graduating from college in May. And I've told him, right,
Yeah,
thank you, that
congrats.
these are the experiences, these are the
Mhm.
people that you're going to lean into and lean into, I guess is the right phrase, over the decades to come. So I went ahead and finished my degree there, and then I remember after graduating, I was like, well, what do I want to do? What do I want to do in this career? What about money? So this was before the internet, and I looked online. I looked in the newspaper for a job, and it was
The
financial
newspaper, crazy.
sales. And I said, well, I like sales and I like money because when I was in college, when I joined the sorority, I became their fundraising chairman. And I raised more money in the first semester than they had raised their entire by doing I selling ad space on stadium cushions for the football game, doing haircut-a-thons. We were making, selling pretzels, or they call them hoagies up there. We call them subs in New Jersey. But, we did anything to make money for the sorority. But I basically answered an ad, and I took a job in financial sales. And here we are 40 years later.
That's that's amazing. I'm curious. After being so involved at kind of the matriarch level, how was that move from being that engaged with family, taking being responsible, partially responsible, or majorly responsible for your siblings, to then kind of being on your own and being the primary focus? How did that transition work? I'm just curious.
Well, I did have my own car, and it was only 2.5 hours away, so I was home often. I would,
Right.
and as my other siblings, got their licenses, they would, come up to drive or so forth. So, I mean, I was checking in all the time, but back then we didn't have cell phones either. So there was a payphone on the
Right.
dorm floor, and the phone would ring, and they'd go, "Luthy, it's for you." And I knew something was happening at home. Because they weren't always just calling to say hi, although, they were happy to talk with me. But, yeah, I mean, I still had to be engaged, but I tried to stay focused. I don't know, I guess I just tried to split my time and be available when I could, but lean into the opportunities that, the being away provided. I played on the softball team. We traveled a little bit for some of the games, so sometimes my siblings would meet me there. My father would come up to visit,
Yeah,
and when
cool.
he was back in town, and I'd go home to see my mom, because she wasn't traveling up.
So does that mean you have a roll of dimes or quarters in your dorm room to make sure that you could call home whenever you
Yes,
need
actually,
to?
it was dimes, and there is a phrase in a
Okay.
song, it
Wow.
says, "Who dropped a dime on me?" That literally
Hmm.
means who put the dime into the payphone, who dropped the dime on ratting me out. So just so now
Wow.
giving you a little context, who it was 10 cents a
Yeah,
call.
yeah.
Now that song's going to be
Crazy.
stuck
Yeah.
in my head the
Yep,
rest of
Yeah, I
the
know.
year. And I appreciate that.
But now I know
that's
the
right.
reason behind
Yep.
it, though. That's great.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
so obviously you have an interesting background there. I mean, I guess looking back, what early experiences taught you grit, and how has that grit continued to guide you through both your professional and your personal challenges
So
in life?
when I was younger, I don't even know that I knew what the definition of grit was, other than somebody just was, a go getter. If I'm going to go back to those words, for me, grit actually has become an acronym that stands for gratitude, resilience, integrity, and tenacity. So I have grit, and you know how I know that? Somebody told me I did. Right? I just I would do things in life that people would say, "Oh, if you want something done, just ask Lucy, she'll get it done." I didn't know was not an acceptable
Hmm.
answer. Even when my mom was having medical challenge and they said, "Hey,
Hmm.
listen, she may never get well." I'm like, "That's not gonna happen." we're more concerned about you. I'm like, nope, I'm concerned about my mom. So grit was, and I think part of it comes from my family mantra. My grandmother and father used to say, if you don't ask, you don't get. So if you want to know how that transforms into being an advisor and creating a book of business and helping others, you have to go out and find clients, right? You have to have grit to do that. This business isn't for everybody. It's not easy, but it is very rewarding. And as you know, earlier in your career, it takes a while to build a book of business, and if you can make it, they used to say past 5 years. I don't know who told me that number, but that was my goal, right? For the first 5 years, let's go, we have to keep moving. I just knew I had to get things done, so grit for me was, don't taking not taking no for an answer. I mean, regardless of what was happening in my life, and lots of things have happened. So I mentioned my parents got divorced, my mom was ill, I had a daughter who's 35, who was a relative child that was gonna go in foster care, and I was 26 years old, and I wound up picking her up to help my cousin out because she was gonna go into a facility to get some help. Well, I got the call, my now daughter was at the police station because my cousin had gotten arrested for shoplifting, and this baby needed a parent. So I drove down and I drove home with that child that day, 15 months old. I'm 26 and I show up to work the next day and they said, "Where did you get the kid?" And I said, "Well, it was a good
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah.
I know how to pop them out. Let's go."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Were you see
right.
it in the papers or what?
So
Yeah.
I showed up to work with
That's
this
awesome.
child, and I had already been a foster parent in the foster care system, helping out some other kids. And so I became a family placement foster care. I joined the Foster and Adoptive Family Services Foundation, and I was on a board member and would testify in the state of New Jersey for the rights of children, not necessarily the rights of the parent, like who's advocating for
Mhm.
them. Um, so I did that for my daughter.
Right.
I wound up adopting her at 4. I have a son, the one that's graduating I mentioned earlier, who had Guillain-Barré, had a virus that attacked the central nervous system and was on life support. So I had
Oh,
grit when
yikes.
I advocated for him.
Oh
He
my
was fully
gosh.
paralyzed, and now he is becoming graduating as
Oh
a
my
nurse,
gosh.
and he's been hired for a critical care ICU nurse in the same hospital that received him when he was, losing his ability to breathe. So when I tell you life is
Wow.
full circle and that if
Oh,
you don't have grit, then you're gonna fall by the wayside. You have to be advocating for yourself. And this comes true with financial, challenges, and opportunities. Again, like say, it's an opportunity. So I've been through a divorce. My parents have been divorced. We've had challenges medically and financially. And by the way, I wanna say, and we're going to talk about money. Money has given me the opportunity to make the difference in other people's lives, but there have been times when I've had very little of it, and times I've had a lot more. And I think oftentimes when I focus more on the what money can do for us instead of what it is sitting in our bank accounts, those are the people I like to work with. It's the resource and so forth. So the grit, coming back to your ask the question, I think it's just uh, forging ahead regardless of what the obstacles are.
Yeah. So Kim, I want to dig a little bit more, if it's okay with you, into your son's illness. Obviously, as a parent, I think I'll speak for Eric here, but the biggest fears, one of the biggest fears you have in life is your kids get sick or hurt in a way that is out of your control. So I had the ability to, you and I had a chance to have a conversation before, so I've got to hear a little bit more about this story. I would love for you to, if you're willing to, just kind of dive into how that overall experience really impacted you personally, emotionally at the time, but how that experience in particular has shaped your professional career and some of the ways that you engage with your clients.
So you're going to make me emotional. It has taught me the power of love, prayer, hope,
mm,
and support.
mm.
I have been so blessed. I mentioned my siblings, my family have been very supportive, even though we've all had challenges. And I've had great, like I said, the family mantra is if you don't ask, you don't get. I think the experience has it taught me back then, like I let go of people and things that weren't serving me. While I'm a caregiver by nature,
Hmm.
I don't need to collect wounded birds, give them wings, and teach them how to fly. Every single person I meet, I can't help everybody.
Right.
I want to lean
Mhm.
into those who want
Yeah.
help, and that's why I don't chase people. Like, I have a great gift of, my life experiences, and I know that I can use those experiences to help my clients. Like I said, I think I shifted from I just was so grateful for all the help that I got. When my son was in the hospital, I had everything happen. A tree fell on my roof, right? I have friends that came over, got the tree off, fixed the roof, cut the tree down. My washing machine broke. Someone, dropped one off. I was in the hospital. We had friends and family that would reach out to other medical professionals because we didn't know what was wrong with them initially. So we were getting help from Children's Specialized Hospital in Philadelphia. We were checking to see what was wrong with him: Rocky Mountain spotted fever, tick paralysis, Lyme disease. All I know is he lost his ability to breathe and regulate his heart rate. So I remember being at the hospital, and I think, again, this is kind of how it shaped me as a parent, right? Especially a mama bear. You do not, like, they said, "Are you a nurse?" I said, "No, I'm his mom." Like, what are we doing to get him better, And by the time we came up with a protocol on, what they did was plasmapheresis, where they pulled his blood out, introduced albumin, and tried to generate new nerves. And it wasn't until after that first round of that, which took 5 days, that he started to respond to stimuli. And when they pinched him, he grimaced. So doctors wanted to kind of go, let's see what happens next. I said, no, no, let's do another round. This is the only thing that's working. You have this machinery going into his femoral artery. He could lose his leg if it gets infected. We need to keep doing this. And so as I walked away from the group of doctors, they said, Mom is not happy with status quo. And to be honest with you, in my head, I said, damn, Skippy, let's go. Let's introduce another
Yeah.
one and get him healthy.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just feel like that whole experience, I walked away from that and I leaned into doing vision boards and finding clarity in what it is that I wanted in my own life. And I created a vision network where we created vision boards and accountability partners so other people can help find clarity as well. So many things have come out of that whole experience. The way that, I engage with my family, being fully present, not just running around trying to help so many people, but really being fully present in all the relationships I had. So I hope I answered your question. I don't know. I think it just helped me really lean into the power of prayer and love and hope and support.
Yeah, you did answer it, and I you got where I wanted to get was which when the first time we had this conversation, I remember you telling the story on how the doctors were they seemed okay with status quo, and it was because you were a mama bear.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Mama bear. Yeah.
making sure that no, this is not okay. It's not
It's
what
not
we're
good
gonna do
enough.
with.
Yeah.
And that really struck me. Like I don't know if I personally would have would have been able to do that, right? Like not because I didn't want to, but I don't know. It just struck me when we talked about it the first time is like that there's so much strength involved there to question the quote unquote professionals and do what you think and know is right in your heart, and not just
Hmm.
take their word for it. Um,
Yeah.
and
Right.
ultimately, that sounds like that's what made the difference and got him to where he is today, which is really an amazing
Thank you.
story.
And you know what I would call that? I think I
Absolutely.
learned that I was an advocate, right? And that we're an advocate for our clients, but I was an advocate
Hmm.
for my son and for his health. And I not only did I know what was right in my heart, but I felt it in my gut, right? And so if we only followed our heart, we'd
Hmm.
really, it's a very emotional roller coaster. But when you follow your gut, and because
Right.
we had been lying there in that hospital room for weeks already, and they were trying all these different things, and they were talking to other professionals, and it's not a very common virus now that how COVID affects your your lungs and your ability. This affects your central nervous system, and it eats away at the myelin that surrounds your nerves, and it short circuits your body. So again, it's not a very common thing, and so not every doctor has dealt with it. And they're going to go to the process of elimination. And I respect, people who go through this type of education in medical and healthcare. But I also know that if you don't question or you don't ask questions, then how are they going to know what, even in your own healthcare journey, right? We know people who advocate for it. And actually, at the time, I said I was going through a divorce. I had just gotten divorced. And my ex husband shortly thereafter said, if it weren't for you, he may not be alive. So you saved our son's life. And I was able, because of this business, to be able to live in that hospital. And I had my laptop, but also I had people in my firm that were helping to support my clients, right? So that's about that support and the people that surrounded me. It wasn't just in the hospital and people bringing us meals and people taking care of the tree on, on the roof and all that. It was all these people that I guess I had leaned into that now the universe was bringing back into my world. And actually strangers, or I would say acquaintances that I'd met through networking events, would show up with meals. We ate like
Mhm.
kings at that hospital. I mean,
Oh, wow.
I'm telling you, and there was a sleep room, and I
Wow.
was able to kind of sometimes go and catch a few winks and then get back in there. And I even remember I stood so long, I had to change my sneakers out, right? Because like I was wearing the so
Oh, wow.
I just feel like I don't know where I'm going with this. I just feel like I leaned into what the universe was sending back my way.
Mhm.
Mhm. Kim, your story is so real, so gritty, and really so inspiring. We would love to continue
Oh,
this
absolutely.
in a second episode if that's okay. This is beautiful, beautiful. Hey, this is CBS Spotlight. We'll be back for part 2 with Kim Luthy. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.